Perfect. Well, thank
Mm.
you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you today. Thank you for joining us all the way from Bali. This is so magical across the globe, across the oceans. We can be here together. So, and hi to everyone else who's watching, future from the future, watching the replay. Welcome, welcome. So this is Amanda. I'm so excited and honored to have her here with us. She's a sister that I've connected with through the magic ethers of the internet, and she is an evolutionary coach and embodiment facilitator who pushes against the boundaries of what's possible for sex, love, and relationships. And I brought her in here today specifically for us to talk about this embodiment of the divine feminine. We kind of wanted to do something, I kind of wanted to do something special for Women's Month, and I've been just learning so much already from the little bit of time that I've been connected with Amanda about this divine feminine and masculine energy. So I'm super excited to have her here to talk with us today. Amanda, welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for holding this space and for inviting me in. I'm looking forward to sharing and connecting deeper with all of you.
Yes. Now I know you go by Madam. I don't know if that's on just for your profile, but I quite liked that, and that's how I've been introducing you in all the pre-conversation is just Madam Biccum. I don't know if you have a preference for the two, but I really like that.
Yeah, it actually was a name that was gifted to me. I was teaching at a Tantra festival in Holland 2 years ago, and somebody had asked me my name. We were just about to go into a temple night, which my beloved at the time and I were teaching. And somebody had asked me my name, and I said Amanda Biccum, and they said Madame Biccum. And my partner at the time was like, "Oh, Madame Biccum." And then he introduced me, in front of 70 people that night of, our journey, and it just stuck. So yeah, it's beautiful. It really, I'll be honest, it was a point to which it gave me an avenue to embody this next level of sensuality, of sexuality, of reclaiming, this sacred feminine in terms of connection to my body and my pleasure. So yeah, it's a nice name. It's sick.
Yeah, I love it, and it's something very, very unique, and like you said, that nod to what it is that you do. So it caught my eye for sure. So I'll probably refer to you as Madam from here on out.
Amazing.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining us here today. I know you said you're presenting at a festival right after this. That's got to be super exciting.
Yeah, so there's an amazing, one aspect of what I do is sex, love, and relationships, right? So one aspect is really on the new paradigm relationships perspective, which is all about, are you living your relationships by design or by default? And I think many of us are living our relationship structures by default. We were brainwashed by movies and fairy tales and all these different things around what love is and what it's supposed to look like and happily ever after, all of this. And the truth is that most of the time it doesn't look at all like it does on the movies. And so one of the things that I really am a leader in is helping people understand that there's so many different ways that you can create and structure your relationship or ships if you choose. And this whole festival, it's called Evolve Festival, and it's all I feel very humbled and honored because some of the top leaders in the field, experts and people who I look up to, I'll be speaking on stage with. And so for anybody who's interested in learning more about relationships and trauma and how it shows up in relationships, open relationships, tantra, I highly suggest checking it out because it's going to be amazing. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Maybe, I don't know, if we can do in-person festivals by this time next year, we'll make it a field trip, potentially.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, all of these beloveds I usually go to festivals and we teach in actual festival spaces with, and with the whole situation, we've just had to move online for now. So when we do finally reconnect, it's going to be super juicy. I can guarantee it.
I know. I'm counting down the days. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too.
So, Madam, please just tell us a little bit about yourself and just how you got started with your work.
Yeah, so I started off actually as a yoga teacher. My spiritual path started when I was 16. A best friend of mine asked me to go to yoga with him, and I knew there was something really powerful in the practice of yoga. And so I started there, and then I kind of, fell off. And then at 17, my brother introduced me to Merkaba, which is a specific meditation from ancient Egypt. And then from there, at 19 was when my first really, awakening happened. And this was when I started getting really deep into yoga, and then Deepak Chopra and Eckhart Tolle and Osho and all of these amazing great masters, both of our time and before. And from there, I really became dedicated to the yogic path. And I really felt this truth and got rid of alcohol and got rid of drinking. You know, I was 19. That's what everybody did in college at that time. But I really felt that there was something that I needed to clean up within myself. I was overweight. And I was just not really happy. I was smoking pot all the time. And so I just said, enough, like I need to get rid of all this stuff. And from there, I was very, like, I was a devout yogi, you know, turned into a vegan, studied nutrition, you know, was like yoga, philosophies, namas, niyamas, sutras, like all of this. I became a yoga teacher, and I was really good at it. I never did the yoga teaching because I wanted to be a teacher. I did it to deepen my own practice. And from that space, I had more and more people saying, Amanda, this is the best yoga class. When I was practicing, I was like, this is the best yoga class I've ever taken. You can't not teach. And so it was in that moment that I decided to commit to teaching and to showing up and giving people a different perspective on how they can show up for life. And I went to India, did my second teacher training. And then that kind of just opened me up to the next, well, this is 7 years now that I've been traveling, where I have just been committed to learning from different teachers, different traditions, different philosophies, different gurus, if you will. And it was interesting. My embodiment path came about 5 years ago, but 4 years ago was when I had the moment of kind of aha and awakening. And I was already starting to move away from my yoga path because I was feeling no longer resonant with it, but I didn't know why. And this was my identity and who I was. And it was like my first ego death, if you will. And I just realized, I remember I was in India a different time, and I was on a contact dance, ecstatic dance floor, and I was moving my energy. And all of a sudden I was dancing with this guy, and there was a lot of sexual energy. And for the first time in my life, I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Is this okay? Contact, where there's not supposed to be sexual energy. I'm feeling this. Is he feeling this? Are we both feeling this? What do I do with it? Oh my God. And I like moved away from the situation, and I was just like, but I was on fire. My body was so juicy, and I was just getting it. And the music was amazing. And then another friend came up to me. He was also a contact dancer, and we started dancing. I'm like, oh my God, what is this? Again, here it is. What do I do with it? Is it okay? Like, do I act on it? And it was in that moment that I was like, whoa, there's a part of myself that I have deeply denied, deeply denied. And this scares the out of me, you know? I'm like, I need to learn this part of myself. And so it was in that moment where I had already been like curious and learning about Tantra on the side by myself. But it was in that moment that it scared me so much. And I realized I was so deeply in my masculine for so long. And this feminine, this sensuality, this sexuality, this movement, this animal was ready to be connected to. And so that's kind of what put me on the path of really diving deep into this path of my life.
I love that. Beautiful. Dancing is one of my favorite spiritual practices too. And that's one of the things when we're talking about spaces that we miss, you know, during the pandemic. That's definitely one of the things that I miss more than anything, is just being in a communal space and dancing and connecting to that energy. So I love that that's where it came for you. I noticed too, and maybe this was intentional, maybe not, that maybe you differentiated your spiritual path from your embodiment path. And are those two different things for you?
That's a good question. For me, they are and they aren't. You know, I almost look at them as like an Venn diagram. And I often say this: there are people who are in their body, and for a long time I was in my body, but I wasn't embodied. Like, I can look at somebody and they're fit. Maybe they've got a six pack, or if it's a woman, she's super toned and she's at the gym. But I can feel energetically, yes, they are connected to their body, but are they embodied? No. And I can see that by the way they move and by the way that their body, like how, when we're embodied, there's a connection to our energetic self and our physical self, and an understanding that these two are actually not separate. We may be fit and we may be a nutritionist, but etc. And we may be connected to our body and have a good relationship and a different relationship, but it doesn't mean that we're embodied. And spirituality, you can be embodied and you don't necessarily have to be spiritual. Like, there are people who are just dancers, for instance. There are some really amazing professional dancers. They're very aware of energy. They're very aware of how their body moves. And it doesn't mean that they're spiritual. So for me, I am firmly rooted in everything is all connected. So of course my spirituality then moves into my embodiment, which then moves into my sexuality, which then moves back into the connection that I have with, you know, God, goddess, creator of all that is.
Mhm.
So yeah, it just depends on where you're at when you're on the path.
Yeah, I love that, and I just noticed the difference how the your verbiage shifted as you went through your story, and I was like, oh, I love that distinction, and yeah, you describe it very beautifully too. Now, since we kind of are here to talk about this feminine aspect, most particularly when I know both are omnipresent, but you mentioned specifically that night on the dance floor when you kind of felt that feminine side of you that maybe had previously been repressed and you felt like you were living in the masculine. So can you tell us about maybe those two different embodiments and what those look like?
100%. I think for anyone who is wanting to like deepen into their femininity and connect to their divine feminine, they have to learn and understand and connect to their divine masculine or their masculine. So first, when we kind of look at these two concepts on a very base level, we all have masculine and feminine. It does not have to do with our gender. Although oftentimes, depending on the body that you're born into, based upon the hormones that you produce, you typically have more of a masculine or a feminine essence. Now, also based on the society that you grow up in, for instance, India is a very feminine society. It moves with the feminine. It's crazy. It's chaotic. You can see there's a lot more feminine in men and women versus the West, let's say Amsterdam or even America. We're very much more priding our masculine. You know, feminine is oftentimes the spirituality, the subtle realms, the unknown, the mystic, the shamanistic, you know, the witch, like the person who is working with the tarot. And it's the subtle energy that is connecting to all things, but it's not necessarily coming from here. It's your gut intuition, it's your instinct. Whereas the masculine, it also has an instinct, but it's very much more linear and structure and logical and yeah, goal driven, goal focused type of a mentality. And these two energies we all have, and we all have them within us. And I often say we all have an inner man and an inner woman. We even have a little child, maybe even two childs within us. And when we're, you know, I was very much in my masculine and what that looked like, which I think is really important for women, especially because we're conditioned to believe that you are worthy based upon your success. And that is a very masculine dominated principle. And that oftentimes, you know, being goal driven and being successful, it's not bad or wrong. It's amazing. Fuck yes, queen. Go out there and get it and achieve your goals and be in your power. And be mindful of if you're over exercising that part of you. And that's what I was doing. You know, I was a performer my whole life. I was a dancer. I was a volleyball player. I was a gymnast. Like performance was where my mother showed me love. When I did well in school and when I did well in my performances, my mom was like, oh my God, I'm so proud of you. You're so amazing. Look at my daughter. Isn't she amazing? So I learned that my self-worth was rooted in how much I performed. But that stuck me very deeply in my masculine. Even my nutrition practices and my yoga practices, I was very in my masculine. I was running my own business. I was very strict on my food. I was doing it for the right reasons. I wanted to love my body. I wanted to be healthy. I never wanted anything to be, you know, wrong with her. I wanted her to look good. You know, and I restricted myself so much. I mean, my nutrition, you know, learning and going down that path was the best and the worst thing that could have happened to me because I had so much stress around what I was eating and where it came from and what kind of water they used and if it was non-organic or organic or gluten-free or nut-free or blah. And I live in California, you know, but I became so obsessed with trying to do it right or trying to do it perfect. I was a perfectionist.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very much masculine. And when we look at these two areas, there's the healthy masculine, there's the healthy feminine, there's the shadow, there's the light, there's the dark. There's so many different aspects and flavors. That's a whole nother topic, but just giving people, you know, an awareness so that they can have this barometer of where am I at? And am I allowing my feminine, which is the flow, the trust in life, the magic, the, you know, if anybody here, or maybe even yourself, has ever left the world and just traveled with nothing other than a backpack and no structure, life happens in the most magical of ways that you could have never predicted or calculated or planned for. That is the feminine. And so I think we're in this place right now in life where all of our structures, our financial, our health, our economical, are crashing down. This is why the feminine is so important, because when I look around, I work with both men and women. The men, are really struggling. A lot of men right now are really struggling because everything that they've built themselves on, the structure, the logic, the know-how, is falling, and it's falling quick, and it's falling globally. It's not just a city, it's not just a country, it's global. And the feminine, she thrives in chaos. She is chaos. She's the light, she's the dark, she's the ruthless, she's the expansion, she's the contraction, she's the emotion, she's the ocean. So it's like, she's just like, yeah, bring it on. Okay, I'm going to create with this. How can I make magic with this? I think that's why we see so many amazing women like yourself doing the work that we're doing, because we're like, okay, let's get fucking messy and let's have pleasure while we do it, you know?
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I think a lot of us too, and I know me personally, can really, really resonate with that masculine hold of perfectionism and that wanting to just do. And it is really rewarding that we can be in a place where we can, go out and chase our dreams and do what we want. But it does get a little bit overwhelming sometimes and really restrictive, and this idea that we have to constantly perform at this perfection level, especially those of us that are kind of still in this like day-to-day 9 to 5 really rush, just kind of seeing our value as tied to productivity. So I love that was a key differentiator for you for the two energies. And yeah, that's because I know that's just something that a lot of us have really been talking about a lot lately together, is because we all kind of feel this way. And like you said, I think the whole world does, just all of these structures and ways that we thought were set up to protect us and make us feel safe and just cocooned are now like falling down. And we're just sort of being pushed out into this wild, crazy open area and not having any idea what to do with it, and I think stepping into that can be really intimidating sometimes too. What would you say, I guess, maybe for women that don't really feel as connected to that side of them, that allows them to just kind of like let go and like laissez-faire, and just sort of step into that power of unpredictability,
Yeah.
How do we, obviously it's not something that happens overnight, but how do we start to, get into a space where we're more comfortable with that area?
Yeah, great question. Great question. I think the first thing that anyone can do, and this is like, I used to have this course, it was called Worship the Goddess. I still have it. I just don't promote it anywhere. But one of the main principles is the goddess honors herself first. Before she does anything for anyone else, before she goes and gets ready to go to work, to feed the kids, to whatever it is that you do, check your phone, check your messages, she honors herself first. And this is the thing, there's not one way that is the right way or the wrong way for anyone. Yeah, it is 100% up to you, the being, the sister, the woman. What is it that makes you come alive? What is it that makes you feel nourished, that makes you feel connected to your body? That could be yoga, that could be meditation, that could be self-pleasure, that could be lying on your back and just holding your breast, that could be feeling your body, that could be journaling, that could be drinking your tea or your coffee with silence in the morning, that could be a shower that just where you just rub your body and say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, oh thank you. There's so many different ways, but like honoring your temple and honoring yourself before you ever do anything for anyone else is one of the first things that you can do, because it's, in my belief, it's through the body that we connect to spirit, and it's through the body that we learn to trust spirit, because a lot of this control and drive is ultimately because we don't trust. Now, does that mean you should just be like, okay, I trust the universe, I'm just going to lay here and everything's going to be done for me? Obviously not. That's not how it works. And can you allow yourself to surrender to you a little bit each day, and give yourself this permission to be with yourself? And when I say be with yourself, I don't mean on the phone. I don't mean doing something. I mean feeling your emotions, feeling your body, feeling this life force that's within you in whatever way works for you. And dance is, of course, like one of our favorites.
It is. It's just so, for me, it's one of the reasons that brought me to yoga as well. I'm also a yoga teacher, was that embodiment. That was the only way, that I could feel embodied, and through writing too, I found other ways too, but, just that idea of getting into your body and out of your head, it kind of, it's very tactile, and it's very, very more accessible in that way. And off of that, I guess I wanted to ask, a lot of what you do and what you teach is this portal of sexuality to higher consciousness and higher states of being. So could you talk a little bit about that? Because I know too, a lot of us are in the yoga space still as well, and it can come off as really restrictive, and having one of the core principles, of yoga being
Brahmacharya.
yes, exactly, about just this sense of being like reserved, so how does this new concept work in with that?
Yeah. So one of the things for me that was like kind of a gateway or a portal to saying yes to myself and yes to my pleasure was through understanding that my body and my physicality is sacred and divine. And I had this moment, I think I was maybe doing yoga, probably in Shavasana, because that's where all the greatest downloads come. And I remember I was thinking, okay, wait a second. If I am at my root and at my energy and at my essence and at my core consciousness, I would have consciously chose to come here. And if I consciously chose to come here, why am I trying to leave? Why am I trying to go into some other, living in India for quite some time, almost about 3 years, you have these monks who are going into this like sadhu space and like transcending. And I'm like, hold on a second. That doesn't make sense to me. Like, I'm consciousness. I chose to come here. Why did I choose to come into this body?
Mhm.
And if that's a pathway, then where am I denying aspects of my body? And if I came from sex, if all things is God, goddess, creator of all that is, and I came from sex, then why am I denying this aspect or part of me? Why am I not embracing it instead and really finding where, like, this is the portal of creation. This is literally, this act is what brings new life into this world. This is the whole reason why everything exists. So what is here that I'm not understanding or haven't yet been given the keys to? And this is where, Tantra kept coming into my world, Tantra, because I had, I was celibate. I did almost a year of celibacy, conscious celibacy. And luckily enough, in that moment is when I found my own sexual energy and connection to myself and connection to my own pleasure. Because what I realized is that I actually didn't want sex. And I considered myself asexual. I was in a 3.5-year relationship. My boyfriend said I was asexual. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm asexual. The truth is that I just wasn't having great sex. I wasn't actually being met on the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual levels in the depth that I desired to be met. So it's like, yeah, you're like, it's okay, but it's not like activating the parts of me that I know is possible. So it was through really starting, to like have not great sexual experiences and be like, meh, and then from that moment, really tuning into myself and saying, hold on a second, what do I desire? And I remember this moment, I'll share this little story. I met this man, this beautiful, amazing, sexy Spanish man. He had green eyes and curly long hair and beautiful teeth, beautiful smile. And he was Spanish, and we were in Pushkar, India. And I remember he came to my yoga class. Actually, I was teaching yoga for like 200 rupees, which is like $4 on a rooftop in India. And I'm like, whoever wants to come, just come, and he walks in, and immediately there was like this part of my inner animal that woke up, and I'm like, ooh, oh my God, you're spiritual, which is a turn on for me because you're here at yoga and you're sexy as fuck. Okay, like, hello. And this was the first man that I was actually attracted to past my breakup. And I remember we like ended up connecting, and we ended up having sex, and it was beautiful. It was amazing. It was passionate. It was spicy. It was fiery. And it was nice. And we had this connection for about, a week. And then he went off to travel in a different direction, and I did. And then we met again about a month later. And I remember like feeling beautifully connected to him, but there was something missing, and I wasn't sure what it is. In that time of us re-meeting, I had met another beautiful man who I had a deep depth of spiritual connection and attraction to. And I ended up somehow, thank you, Spirit, living in this house with both of these men. And both of these men one of them knew that like I was attracted to him. And I said, look, I feel you. I want to connect with you, and I want to wait, because I feel like sometimes lust can get in the way of our souls doing the dance and seeing and feeling each other as souls, as spirits. So I want to wait. And we are going to be living with this other guy who I have had a sexual connection with. And I don't know what's there, but I can tell you, this new guy, that I feel something really deeply and I want to wait. And with this other guy, I told him, hey, I want you to come and I'm also really interested in this other guy, and I don't know what that's going to look like. I would love for you to come in an open heart. We just see what happens. So I lived like with these two beautiful men, and there's a whole nother story to that. I'll keep it short, but in this beautiful dance. And at one moment I still hadn't slept with the guy that I was like really feeling. And I go on this amazing romantic getaway with this Spanish guy, and we ended up in these hot springs in the mountains in Thailand. And of course we made love, you know, like we can't not. Like I was on the back of the bike riding through these mountains, it was just the most romantic thing ever. And again, it was like the moment, it was the best and the worst moment, because I realized like we were in this beautiful, amazing, there was so much buildup. I didn't know much about polarity. Now I understand the whole, why everything happened. We were having sex, and then literally I'm about to orgasm. It's like the most amazing thing ever. And he pulls out and he comes, and I just, everything in me contracts, and I'm silent, and I'm just in this place of like, what the fuck? And all of these memories of all the times that I allowed a man into my body and I felt used, all of the times where I felt that I was used for someone else's pleasure, where you didn't fucking wait for me. Like, you're probably gonna have an orgasm regardless. Like the least you can do is fucking wait for me, you know? Like, and I was so pissed. And of course, and then I felt shame because I really wanted to be with Michael and all these things. But it was the best healing thing ever, because he could feel me, and he could feel me contract and pull away. And I was angry. You know, a little bit of my colleague came out, and I said, look, this isn't you. This isn't about you, but I want you to know what it feels like to be fucked as a woman, and how many times I have been used by a man for his pleasure. And I know you care about me, and I know this. Please do not take this personally. This isn't about you, but I want you to feel what it feels like to be in my shoes right now. And it was like this huge wake up moment for both me and for him. And it was from that moment, this is where I would, you know, speak into the women here. This is where you get to own what the fuck you desire. Yeah. This is where you get to own, never again. Never again, this is what I did. Never again will I allow somebody into my body who isn't fully aligned on every single level and isn't willing to meet me where I'm willing to meet them, because what I am giving them is a freaking gift. And I'm committing from this moment on to Tantra. I don't even fully understand what it is. I have never even really done any workshops, but I've read the books and I'm committing to this. And it was in that moment that everything shifted for me. My first experience with Michael when we ended up making love was a tantric ritual. I had never done a tantric ritual before, but I had created one. And now I know, and I use this in my workshops and my teachings often. I'm like, it's called Captain Co-Captain. We play with polarities. And it was from that moment when I owned and I claimed, this is what I want. This is what I'm choosing. This is what I'm no longer settling for, that I kid you not, every single lover since that person has been tantric and or has been willing to meet me at the capacity of merging sex and spirit. And my sex life is phenomenal. Now I think I'm more horny than most men, you know, because I know it's possible, you know. So yeah, that's kind of like a little bit of a tangent, but I wanted to share that story because I think it would resonate probably with a lot of women in this space, and really give them the permission to know that great sex is possible. Great sex is out there. You are a goddess. You deserve everything you desire. And you can be the one that, by owning it with spirit, you can start to create that and manifest that into your reality as a reflection of the men who are around you.
Wow, that is so powerful. And that just reclamation, I could feel it in you as you were even telling the story before you even said it again. It's like, oh, I'm seeing Kali like come out of you, and she grabs out her sword, and I was like, I better be careful. Like, he's going to be down a member. But I love that that was an elevational moment for both of you. And it's a good segue, I think, because I opened up some questions to the girls beforehand who couldn't make it live, if anyone wanted to ask you something. And we had a few questions about particularly shame and guilt that gets tied into around these areas, and just kind of working through blockages like that and starting to invite in, you know, healing around sexuality, or even just your sacral chakra, the energies that are there. So what I guess are some beginning steps for that?
Yeah, great question. So I also, you see me now, I was in a whole different place, you know, get to me 10 years ago, get to me 7 years ago, and I was in a very different place. I had lots of shame. I had shame around my pussy. I thought that she didn't look the way that the porn stars' pussies looked. I had carried that since I was like 13. I had shame around just really liking it or loving it, or being wild or being free or being my fullest expression, being loud. I had lots of shame. And so the first thing that I can say is I love, and if you watch any of my content, whether it's on YouTube or my podcast, I often talk about the difference between masturbation and self-pleasure. And self-pleasure is like, masturbation is goal-oriented. It's like, I'm going to touch my genitals because I want to get off. And that's often shamed. It's like, you shouldn't touch yourself. And boys and little girls, when their hands are in their pants because it feels fucking good, we don't know anything else. We get shamed at a very young age, at like age 3. And then, of course, when we start discovering sexuality, it's this thing that we got to keep hidden, and like men have to get their tissues away so their mom isn't cleaning their room and doesn't find it. It's just a very shameful thing. So what I would invite in is just to really start to look at your own pleasure and your own body in a very different way. First of all of you is divine. If you are made from God, Goddess, creator of all that is, every single part of you is a gift from spirit, and you are an embodied manifestation of spirit of God. So that's the first just download that you can start to see. And from that will start to change everything. That will start to change your worthiness story. That will start to change your sisterhood story. That will start to change your way you feel about your body story. Everything will change from that. Now, when it comes to self-pleasure versus masturbation, self-pleasure is an honoring of your sacred temple, an honoring of every little piece of you. It's not about a goal. Masturbation is about a goal. It's about getting something. This is about honoring every touch, every nook, every cranny. And sometimes you won't even touch your genitals. I have a whole course on it's called the Pleasure Academy, and it's 7 different courses on self-pleasure. There is pain, there is shame, there is emotion. Allow yourself to go there. Self-pleasure isn't always pleasurable. Self-pleasure is about being with your body, working on your feet, discovering your own pleasure that lies not in the genitals. It lies everywhere. Textures, pressures, breath, like sensations, using props. Like, take moments and take time just to be with your body. If you have shame around your genitals, don't start there. Start with I would do this, and in my Pleasure Academy, I have everybody. There's one call that we do, and I say, all right, everybody, get out your calendars. I want you to mark a time on your calendar every week, and for me, it's Mondays at 2 p.m. This is your self-pleasure. Like, you're scheduling in. You're super masculine. I'm going to make you masculine. Stand up for your feminine. This is your self-pleasure, and from this space, you are going to choose to 1 hour devote to yourself in any way that brings you pleasure from yourself. So yes, food brings us pleasure. Yes, rituals and yoga bring us pleasure. No. From yourself. Do self-massage, do exploration, touch your breasts, feel your hair, pull your neck, whatever it is. And this is really where I would start. So that reframe of that you are divine and every part of you is divine, every part of you is sacred. That's also going to change who shows up into your field as men. And then the second part is devote to honoring connection to your body in some way that brings you pleasure. And it might bring you pain, and it might bring you shame, and it might bring you sadness. That is also a part of your own divinity. So honor that. Don't repress it. If you had a sexual experience that was painful, if you were sexually abused or any capacity, feel that. Trust in the reclaiming of the fact that I am sacred, I am divine, and somehow, somewhere along the way, I've allowed someone to create a story that's taken me away from that. So this is my reclamation. And that's, two of the best things that I would invite for beginners.
Beautiful. I love that. That is so, it's so hard for us to do things like that, just to take the time for things like that. And also, I think then when we're in the act of doing it, we can say, okay, this is my self-pleasure time, and it gets to be the time. And then maybe we say, okay, well, now I don't know what to do. Now I feel silly. You just start kind of trying. And I guess maybe I can see it morphing into where you gradually get into this sense of flow state where you eventually, maybe at first it feels awkward and you start eventually opening up to it and being able to tap into that more innate feminine current within you. So I think that would be a really beautiful practice. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, on that, I have a free gift. So for anybody who's wanting to, like, feeling stuck or frozen, I'll give you my link and everybody can have it. It's like a 10-minute self-guided pleasure practice. That's super simple, super basic, all flows can be on, so I can give that to the people as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, perfect. And I'll put that just right at the bottom of the page where this is here. I just wanted to touch on one more thing before we go. Is I love this sexual expression of it too, but also something that really draws me to this idea of divine feminine is the spiritual aspect of it. I know a lot of us here identify as witches or pagans, and for me, one thing that so appealed to me about the spiritual path and the yogic one as well is this reverence of the divine feminism that I feel like I was always missing when I was brought up as a Christian or in a monotheistic sort of institution. And I would be so curious to hear, I know you have you touched on it earlier, such a broad philosophical and spiritual background. So I guess I'm curious just how you see this expression of the divine feminine sort of play out across all of these different traditions, just because that's something that, I don't know, I love geeking out about things like that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's a great question. And I think the question will have many different answers depending on who you're asking. For me, the divine feminine is spirit. It's God, goddess. It's the feminine, polarizing, the trusting, the magic, the witchy, the shamanistic, it is the flow, it is the fluidity, it is the creativity that bursts through you without you having to do anything, just by being just by your nature of being a feminine being, you hold so much creative power. It is within our bodies as women that we create humans. And when you start to understand that, and you start to understand that just happens. Yeah, sex happens and then you create a baby, but you just are the holder, are the carrier of this whole human developing and transforming inside of you. And so I think, there's this really powerful click in when we talk about the divine feminine. It's beyond the ego. It's beyond the personal story. It's beyond the shame. It's beyond the guilt. It's beyond your story of you being a human and having your human experience. Not that human experience isn't important, but what's important to understand and to realize is that there's this essence, spirit, creatrix that is moving through you always at all times. And I use this a lot in business, and when I support women stepping more into expanding in their business. As you know, it's the creatrix within you that is birthing life always. And the most beautiful thing is that our sexual energy is the most potent and powerful life force we have, because it's literally what creates new life on the planet. So when you can start to connect that I am a creatrix, that there is things being birthed through me always, if I choose to allow myself to tap into that, versus the stories, the limiting, the beliefs, the doubts, the fears, the insecurities of my human self. If I can have practices and an awareness and a connection and a commitment to continue to tap into my higher self, there's so much magic that can be transformed. And this is where the divine feminine lies. She is not your ego. She is not your story. She is not your human. She is that which lies beyond, that wants to be birthed through you, because you are here for a purpose, for a mission. Every single one of us is here. We have unique gifts, and it's so important that we say yes to honoring that, and to celebrating in that, and to claiming that. And this is the gift of when we tap into that divine feminine essence, and we see that in the sisters. This is the thing that's so beautiful right now, where you and me and so many other women are like, fuck yeah, sister, you go, girl. Like, I see your highest self. I see the magic you bring to the world. It's different than me, and it's beautiful, and it's abundant, and let's share. Let's get out of the scarcity story. That's the old paradigm. Let's embrace the abundant story. And so, yeah, this is my transmission on the divine feminine.
Jai, I want to cry now. That was so lovely. I will. Thank you so much. I don't want to ever misconstrue your work, and I know you very graciously agreed to talk specifically about Shakti and this feminine with us. But you do work with men also, and I know you have a group program enrollment right now. So tell us a little bit about your men's initiation that's coming up.
Yeah. So the men's initiation, we actually start our program on Wednesday. That's like the opening doors, and this is basically for any woman who has a man that she doesn't want to be his coach. She doesn't want to be his mom. She doesn't want to be his teacher, but she really wants him to up level. Send him our way. We are here in service of the women who are really wanting to get their men at their next level initiation. And we work on men with their childhood woundings, with helping them understand the feminine. So first of all, the feminine inside themselves, but then in the feminine in their partners, you know. So if you have a brother who's struggling, we've had women, our sisters, send their brothers and their fathers and their, you know, it's an amazing cauldron where it's a personal growth, self-development. We teach men how to like have the best sex, like how to honor the feminine, how to become multi-orgasmic, how to access their inner king, access their inner warrior. It's the hardest program. I'll tell you, it's the hardest program that I run, because showing up for men is not easy. I'm like, every time I do this initiation, we're in the launch phase, I'm like, fuck, why do I do this? Like, women are so much easier. Like, can I just stay in my pleasure realm with all of the women, you know? But the transformation that the men have is absolutely next level, and men need it. Like, there's so many things happening for women, and I'm so grateful. It's easy, and women are amazing, and it's just like butter. I have so much pleasure working with women. And with men, it's like, okay, we're doing it because the world needs it. And so if you guys have any, you know, if you're curious about any of that, I'm sure you'll put all the links to my Instagram and everything. And yeah, the doors close on Tuesday, so there's only a few days left. But
Okay.
I feel like that's my Dharma project.
You are doing the world's work, sister. Thank you. Oh, of course. Yeah. All of Madam's info is all the way just down at the bottom. So she'll be there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Madam. I've so loved just being able to have this space with you. You are every bit just a beautiful, moving piece of art that I thought you would be. Thank you so much for being here. Even just hearing you talk and seeing you embody yourself, really, I want to like sway, and I want to go dancing with you now.
Yeah, let's do it. I dance all the time on my Instagram. I'm like, who's dancing with me today? You know, like, yeah. And I have sisters who are like, Amanda, I've been so inspired. I'm dancing. Check it out. And they put it on their stories. So we might not be able to dance in the physical world yet, but let's dance in the energetic play.
Of course. Soon, hopefully. Well, thank you again so much. I so honor everything that you do, and thank you for sharing with our sisters your time and your energy and your wisdom, and we honor you so much. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sierra. Thank you for all the amazing spaces that you're holding, and thank you for being a leader, and thank you for being a divine creatrix who's giving your gifts to all of these women. And thank you for reaching out, and thank you for holding a space. And I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, evening, wherever it is you are in the world. And I look forward to connecting with you guys. I have a free pleasure revolution coming up, so if anybody's interested in that, that's happening April 12th, and we can give you all the information to that as well. So come to the dark side. I promise it's not as scary as you think.
It sounds fun. If there's dancing and orgasms, I think you can sign me up.
Yeah, amazing, Sierra. Thank you so much. Have an amazing evening.
Thank you so much. You too.